You shouldn't do that. That's disgusting. You're dirty. You're stupid. It's at the very heart of our experience of going through life. It's not the most fun subject. It's not the coolest subject. Today's letter is S. What I chose to do it about was shame. Shame, breaking through shame, its interplay with ego, how we connect men to bring them out of their shame are very important parts of the men's personal development journey. Welcome back. This is P for Imperfect, and today's letter is S. And it's been a problematic one. Not because I just recorded this one a minute ago and I haven't actually pressed record, so I'm doing it for the second time, but that just means you lot are going to get an even more pitch perfect performance. And I know that's why you come in, because I'm slick and you love it because I'm perfect. Not. But also because S, see how perfect I am? P for Imperfect. S, it took a lot of debate over which one I should do it about. There's a lot of S's that were in the running. Shadow, for example. In fact, I recorded a whole video about shadow. Maybe I'll post that at some stage anyway. But yeah, and shadow is an important one. You know, Carl Jung's idea of shadow and the interplay with shadow in men's personal development is very important. You know, it kind of becomes the centerpiece, along with archetypes, of a lot of the men's personal development you see out there, for good and bad. You know, it's for the good, because archetypes and shadow are a really, really useful tool to use, and a really interesting framework, and have depth and subtlety, which really help men make massive progress in their life. For worth, you can read a couple of books on it and think you got it, and you don't. And sadly, there's a lot of people out there practicing this stuff and they have no idea really. They've read a book and been to a couple of workshops and then think, all right, off we go. I'm a practitioner of this. So, you know, maybe I will do the one around shadow, for that reason, at least, because it is important. I also was thinking about silence. You know, silence is a very important S in the men's personal development journey, because people don't leave it enough, especially, you know, in silence. A great mentor of mine, Mike Irwin, he often says, let pregnant pause give birth to new ideas or new ways of being. And there's a lot in that. You know, especially when we're kind of facilitating men. I use that as an example. When I'm facilitating men, or I'm watching men facilitate other men, often there's like I've got to get a word in. Men are afraid of the silence. And I think it's because we know something happens in the silence, that we feel uncomfortable in that silence. And the very thing to do is leave the silence. That's where the work is being done, especially if there's tears. You know, the word solution comes from salute, which is Latin for tears. I think it's Latin for tears. Why is that? Well, Jung believes that when we cry, the brain moves objects or people, the thing that we're grieving, the thing that we're crying about, from the physical to the symbolic realm. So think about that. You know, someone's died, we're missing them. We know they're not going to be there. When we've had a good cry about it, when we've really grieved, somehow they've moved into the symbolic. So yes, we will still miss them, but somehow we know they're here with us as this idea. We've incorporated them into our psyche in some way. So silence brings solutions. So we shouldn't be afraid of silence. Anyway, I chose not to do one about silence, but maybe I will. What I chose to do it about was shame. And the reason for that is I just think that shame is one of those pieces that is the cornerstone, really. It's almost like the bedrock of men's personal development. The more I do this, the longer I do this, I think that what we call doing the work, what we call men's personal development, especially when we're doing more facilitated work rather than kind of performance work, when we're doing within inner work rather than just kind of strategies. Strategies, look, I could have done one about strategies, right? We're dealing with the interplay between shame and ego, right? I think that this whole doing the work thing is about the interplay between shame and ego, right? Think about it. You know, we have this thing, this painful thing, this shameful thing about us that happens, and I'll go into how it happens. This event happens, we experience shame. We don't feel shame, and I'll come to that. We experience shame. We have a shaming or shameful experience, and we don't want to feel that again. We don't want to know, we don't want to let other people know this thing about us. So we come up with strategies, yes, as a way of protecting ourselves from that. And that's kind of where ego comes in, you know, or if you're looking at it from a Lacanian perspective, is where the fantasy of a pH comes in, right? It's a separation comes, and this ego needs protecting from this shameful thing. And in the middle, these strategies of how we do that. We get big, we get small, we hide, we dominate, whatever it is, that's shadow, right? So shadow is kind of the interplay, I believe, the strategies we make up between the positive and negative of shame and ego, right? So let's go back a bit to the part where I said we don't feel shame. We experience shame, right? And that's because shame isn't an emotion. Shame is a belief that I hold about myself that was given to me by someone, some people, or something, right? So let's look at that. A child, very young child, a baby, right? Anger, sadness, fear, and joy. They're the four emotions. And it can experience all of those, right? Anyone who's spent much time around a baby will see, you know, a familiar face comes and looks in the crib, big smile, right? Joy. Ah, that person's back, right? Ah, that person who brings me food's back. Hello, big smile on their face, right? Joy. They have something, right? They've got something that they want, whether it be attention, food, whatever. They've got something. Joy. You can take that thing away from them. They become sad. Where's that person gone? Where's that thing gone? Right? They've lost something. And you know that game, like the anger one with kids, you know, you can see they have it, even with babies. You know, they play that game where you've got their little toy and you go, here you go, you can have it. Oh, no, you can't. Yeah, do you want it? And their little hand comes out. Yeah, no, you can't. I got this great video of this moment in reality with me and my son Luca when he was tiny. He's laughing his head off, and every now and again you see a little frustration. Oh, I want that thing. Right? Whoa, he's laughing. Becomes a little bit manic. That's anger. I want that thing. Right? Anger, sadness, fear. Fear. You know, loud bang. You're playing the game, someone drops something, and you can see the child experiences something that's just the same way we experience fear, right? Bang, freeze, eyes open. What's going on? Pause, usually followed by a cry, right? We suppress that bit. So a child can feel all those things. A baby can feel all those things. They can't experience shame. They can't feel shame, right? Because it doesn't exist until someone, some people, or something tells you that something about you is wrong, right? That child can sit there covered in its own feces, happy as Larry, looking around, smiling, can be naked, it could be doing anything, right? No concept of shame whatsoever until someone, some people, or something comes in and goes, you're dirty, you shouldn't do that, that's disgusting. Oh, there's something wrong with me. Right? So it's in those moments, you know, sometimes a pointed hand from a parent or a teacher, you know, you are disgusting. There's something wrong with you. You're stupid. And it goes into shame. It's a belief that comes in. And then the only thing we can do, and what we're dealing with in men's personal development, is looking at the strategies that I put in place to try and stop myself from experiencing that shame again, or, and this is really important, or allowing other people to see this thing that's wrong with me. Right? I'll give you a personal example. I went to school, East London. Had I started school in the 70s? Don't know. Yeah, late 70s, schooled through the 80s, right? It was a different time and place back then. Right? If you're younger and watching this, it was a different place. We didn't have mental health days. No one cared about our anxiety. I was dyslexic. I wasn't diagnosed as dyslexic till I was 19 years old. And so a lot of my formative years at school, I was told with no doubt about it that I was stupid and there was something wrong with me. In fact, we had one teacher, and if you failed his spelling test, he would make you stand in the dustbin, the waste paper basket, in the corner of the room. That was it. That was the level of teaching back in those days, right? So what did that tell me? Well, that undoubtedly told me I was rubbish. There was something wrong with me. And I didn't want to feel that, and I didn't want anyone to know about that. So I had to come up with a strategy to hide that, right? Even from me. So what did I become? I became that dude that sat at the back of the class, leaning back on the two legs of the chair. This is boring. I don't give a fuck. And that's how I spent most of my years at school. I don't give a fuck, right? And all I was trying to hide from was the fact, in inverted commas, that I was stupid, right? And it formed my identity. I moved towards the arts. I became creative, right? Oh, he's good at that, but he's bad at that. Right, I'll be over here. So anything that's academic, fuck that. Anything creative, that's for me, right? But none of that was true. I mean, in fact, it led to me getting expelled from school, right? That behaviour, the fuck you attitude. No one's going to see me. And if you're going to see me, you're going to see me for different reasons you might not like. And I got expelled. And years later, I went back into education. And with support, became a straight A student, pretty much a straight A student. GCSE, A-level, went to university, done nothing at university really, apart from get high and drunk, and was 2 points away from a first, left with a 2-1. Could have got first easy, right? Because the truth is I am very academic. I have a very analytical mind. But I had built this thing up that I was stupid, or rather, I was told that I was stupid repeatedly, and I chose to believe it until I chose to believe it no more, right? And that's why this shame thing is so important, because it don't only have to be individuals, right? It can be a group of people, your friends, or it can be a cultural thing. For example, you know, you're a young man, you might be a young gay man, and you start to get these feelings, right? And you're sitting around with a group of your friends and the TV's on and a man kisses another man on TV and all your friends go, that's fucking disgusting. Like, oh, man, any of my friend guy came try to kiss me, I'd punch him in the head or whatever it was, right? And at that time, oh, there's something about me that's wrong. I'm wrong. I'm disgusting. I'm not going to let anyone know this. And sadly, and happily that's changing more and more and more and more of awareness, but sadly that was the experience of a lot of gay men growing up. Sometimes it even went so far it became internalized homophobia. They hated themselves because of it. And it's shame. It's when something's given something to us that isn't ours, it isn't the truth, but we protect it like it is. I hope this is making sense. And that's why on this personal development journey, understanding that is so important, because we can create spaces where we can start safely looking at the beliefs that we hold about ourselves and seeing if they're true and then dealing with them, right? And often, well, actually all the time, realizing I have nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing wrong with me. There's just strategies I put in place. And this is where there's an important distinction, because I'm hearing some people go, well, what about healthy shame? I don't think there's no such thing as healthy shame, right? To me, that's guilt. That's guilt, right? Guilt is, I've done something wrong. or I want to do something wrong and it's not aligned with my values and I feel bad about that. That's guilt. Shame is I am something wrong. Shame is there is something wrong with me. And those two, you could take the extremes of those things and you could argue, right? Well, shouldn't people feel shame for certain things? Well, I don't think so, right? Because that's not helpful. If I am something, if there is something fundamentally bad about me, then I can never change it. That's just who I am. So it's ultimately disempowering. And even if you're working with people and you can't understand what they've done, even trying to help them see that it's not a fundamental thing about them. It's something that, has evolved or came into view, but they have some control over it. As soon as you can move it into guilt, where they have a choice, or they can feel sadness around it, and then they can work on it. If it's I've done something or I think something and it's not aligned with my values and I feel sad and angry about that, you can work with that. If it's I am something, there is something fundamentally wrong with me, you can't work with that until you've proven that that's not the truth, right? And that's where men's groups are so good. That's where men's personal development is so good, where we create safe spaces where men can explore the things that they may feel shame about. Because half the time we don't even know we're carrying it. Sometimes I'll be working in a group, there'll be a man, we get down to the fact that he believes he's unlovable. He believes that at his core, there's something so wrong with him that he's unlovable. And one of the things I do in those situations, I say, well, take a look around. Great, stand in the middle, bring the other men in who are not worthy of love, bring them in. And of course, he says, well, everyone's lovable. Everyone's worthy of love. Well, apart from you? What makes you so fucking special that you're the only one? And that's the other point of shame, is shame isolates because it becomes, I am separate from, I am holding this thing. There is this part of me that no one sees. By its very nature, it causes us to be separate and different. As soon as we can bring that into the light, hands up if anyone else feels the same as this man. Hands up if anyone's ever acted or thought the same way. Oh, I'm not so different. I'm not so different. That's connection. The opposite of shame is connection. It's not pride. The opposite of shame is connection. So in this men's personal development journey, at some point, you're going to come up against shame. And if you're working in this field, you're going to come up as a man who holds great shame. And always the way to deal with it is exposure and connection. What is this thing that you don't want to share? Okay, and you've got to do that carefully, of course, and it may take time. But the ultimate power is bringing it out into the light, because it was never yours in the first place. It was never that man's in the first place. Someone gave it to him. What was that belief? Who gave you it? How do we get it out and give it back? And then connection. Who else feels the same way? Who's seen this? Who has ever acted or felt this same way? We get connection. Right. So, shame. A key part of the men's personal development journey. That's why I chose it to be S. It's not the most fun subject. It's not the coolest subject, but it's at the very heart, I think, of what we're doing, and very at the heart of our experience of going through life. We have to experience shame one way or another. We get shamed. It's just what we do with it once we get it, and how we unpick it and build it into something that we can benefit from, and maybe even benefit others. Like my dyslexia, for example. I was massively ashamed of that until I started wearing it like a badge of honor. Like, I'm dyslexic, which means I do stuff differently. It means I've done stuff that has been, even simple things have been a massive achievement for me. So I can be proud of those. And most importantly, when I show up, and I often show up as leaders in places, or, people, believe it or not, seek my advice. Hopefully, that makes other people with dyslexia think, you know what? Well, I can do that too. right? I don't have to hide at the back of the class, back on the back of my chair, telling everyone to fuck off because they may see what I'm thinking or doing. So shame, breaking through shame, its interplay with ego, and how we connect men to bring them out of their shame are very important parts of men's personal development journey. I hope you enjoyed this. Enjoy might be the wrong word, but I hope you got something from it. Keep connected, keep doing the work. See you soon. Take care. Bye.